up to another good morning. Time to go.
Are you ready to explore God's wild and wonderful world? Welcome to the Nat Theo podcast. I'm your host, Erin Lynham. I'm a certified master naturalist, Bible teacher, and author. And I am so excited to dive into God's written word, the Bible, and his created world with you. Have you ever been in a very dark room or area and you can't see a thing? Maybe you raise your hand in front of your face, but you can't even make out the outline of your fingers. But then, after a few moments, you begin seeing the shapes of things. Sometimes we call this letting our eyes adjust to the dark. Even though our eyes can adjust a bit to the dark, we still cannot see very well. But God created some creatures to see very well in the dark. Today, we will learn about some of those creatures and their night vision. You know, sometimes we can feel a bit in the dark when it comes to math. Like we just can't see the answer to an addition or subtraction or multiplication problem. Maybe it feels like we're stumbling around in the dark. CTC Math has helped my kids see math more clearly. My kids enjoy the short video lessons that teach them new math skills and help them master previous skills. Whether you homeschool or you're looking for effective math help to add on to your current program, CTC Math is a great resource for kindergarten through 12th grade. Try CTC Math for free for 1 week and enjoy seeing math more clearly at ctcmath.com. Have you ever been outside in the evening or at dark and heard animals? What animals do you think are around at night? Maybe you are curious about animals with night vision, like one of our listeners, Abraham. This episode was inspired by Abraham's question. He asked, "How do wolves and porcupines see at night?" Abraham, thank you for such a great question. Keep staying curious and asking great questions about God's wild and wonderful world. You know, I've had some interesting experiences in the wilderness at night. One time, my husband and we went on a nighttime hike together in the mountains. And we arrived at the trailhead just after the sun had set. And as soon as we opened the car door to get out, we heard an owl hooting from the trees nearby. We've also heard coyotes howling in the evening or early mornings. And one time I hiked into the wilderness before the sun came up while it was still very dark out. I was nervous and I kept thinking that I heard things in the woods. Do your ears ever play tricks on you like that? I don't think I actually heard any animals that day. But my husband was camping with our kids nearby, and he said that where I had walked into the woods, not long after, a big black bear came out of the woods from the same spot. I think I probably disrupted his sleep and spooked him off. Nature is very different at night than during the day. Here's our trail map for today. We are going to learn what are nocturnal and crepuscular animals. We will learn what animals have night vision and how does night vision work. And we will learn how does God help us see clearly in the dark. Today we are learning about some amazing creatures that God designed with see in the dark abilities. No, not glow in the dark. We learned about that on episode 13 when we learned about lightning bugs and bioluminescence. Today's lesson is not about glowing animals, but animals that can be active at night and see in dark places. We will also learn how sometimes when we are in dark places, God helps us see through the dark to his light. This is one reason my family loves using Apologia curriculum in our homeschooling. You see, sometimes this world can be a bit dark. and it's important for us to always focus on God's light and truth. Apologia helps my family do this as we are learning all about His amazing world. Apologia helps students like you see science, math, history, and language arts by the light of God's truth. I love that I can open up our beautiful Apologia textbook and we can begin learning together right away through fascinating lessons, hands-on activities, and student journals. Explore all of Apologia's wonderful curriculum at apologia.com or at the link in the show notes. All right, listeners, here is our trivia question. During today's lesson, we are going to learn 2 new words, nocturnal and crepuscular. You will discover what those words mean, but there is a 3rd word that goes with them, and I want you to guess what it means. The word is diurnal. So as you listen to our lesson, keep that word diurnal in your mind and guess what it might mean. We will find out at the end of our lesson. So have you ever heard the word nocturnal? Do you know what it means? Nocturnal means an animal that is active mostly at night. So for the most part, these animals sleep during daytime hours. Then in the evening, they wake up and begin their day, which looks a lot different from our days. They often use the nighttime hours to hunt and gather food. But when we talk about animals with night vision, there is another word that we should know. It's actually one of my favorite words in nature. It is crepuscular.
Huh?
Can you say that? Crepuscular. Crepuscular animals are a little different than nocturnal animals. Crepuscular animals are mainly active at dawn and dusk, so when the sun is rising and setting. Dusk is often called the golden hour, especially by photographers or those who take photos, because as the sun is going down, it casts beautiful light across the landscape that is perfect for taking great pictures. I like to call dusk the golden hour for spotting wildlife. My family and I, we often drive around at dusk to go spot wildlife, especially crepuscular animals that are active during that time. Why do you think crepuscular animals are active at dawn and dusk? Do you have any ideas? Here are a couple of reasons crepuscular animals are active during those times. First, dawn and dusk are great times for going out to hunt or gather food because they are not too hot or cold. Some animals struggle to hunt during the heat of the day or the cold of night, and so they hunt at those cooler temperature times of dawn and dusk. And second, some crepuscular animals don't have as great of night vision as nocturnal animals that are active throughout the night. So these crepuscular animals hunt or find food when it's not quite as dark. Now, some animals can be both crepuscular and nocturnal, so there's a bit of overlap. But usually they fall into one of those main categories, being mainly active throughout the night or mainly active at dawn and dusk. Now, here's a good time to remember our trivia question. You know what nocturnal and crepuscular are, but there is that 3rd related word, diurnal. Keep thinking about that word and what it might mean. So it's important to remember that in most cases, nocturnal animals who are active throughout the night have better night vision than crepuscular animals who can see well in low lighting, like at dawn and dusk. But God created all of these animals to be able to see how they need to in order to survive and do well. So let's look at several animals with good night vision. And I want you to guess whether they are nocturnal, active throughout the night, or crepuscular, active at dawn and dusk. Are you ready to guess? All right, let's begin. Let's look first at the animals that Abraham asked about, which inspired this episode: porcupines and wolves. Do you think a porcupine is nocturnal, active throughout the night, or crepuscular, active at dawn and dusk? A porcupine is mostly nocturnal, active throughout the night. Okay, what about wolves? Do you think wolves are nocturnal or crepuscular? Wolves are mostly crepuscular, active at dawn and dusk, although they will sometimes hunt during the night. What about mountain lions? Mountain lions, also known as cougars or pumas or panthers, do you think those are mainly nocturnal or crepuscular? They are mainly crepuscular. In fact, when my family and I saw a mountain lion last year, it was right at dusk. How about frogs? Most species of frogs, do you think they are nocturnal or crepuscular? They are nocturnal. Okay, one last creature. Do you think owls are nocturnal or crepuscular? Most owls are nocturnal, although some are crepuscular. Crepuscular owls, or owls most active at dawn and dusk, include snowy owls and great horned owls. Do you remember I told you that my family and I like driving around at the golden hour of dusk to spot wildlife? We often go looking for great horned owls, and sometimes we find 4 or 5 of them at dusk. Now, listeners, these are not hard rules or lines. It's not like a bedtime where an animal has to be in its den and sleeping as soon as the sun comes up and up to hunt right at 9 p.m. Animals really just want to find food at the best times. So, some crepuscular animals might stay up a bit later at night, and some nocturnal animals might stay awake past dawn if the hunting is good. But one thing is true of all these animals: they need a way to see in the dark or in low lighting. Before we learn how night vision works, I want to tell you about a really great resource my family uses to help us see light. And what I mean by that is the light of God's love and truth. We love using christianbook.com to find great books, toys, gifts, and resources that share God's love and truth. It feels a little bit like a birthday each time a box arrives because we are so excited to open it up. You see, Christian Book is different from other stores and online shops. They offer unique and classic books that I didn't even know about before. Check out their amazing selection of books, curriculum, and even gifts and toys at christianbook.com. So let's learn about God's amazing design of night vision in creatures. God designed crepuscular and nocturnal animals to see in different ways. Now, we learned about bats on episodes 39 and 40. Bats can be nocturnal and crepuscular. And although people often think bats are blind, they can actually see pretty well, although they don't see like us humans see. They can't make out shapes as sharply as we can. They can't see as much detail. So God designed them with another way to see in a way in the dark, using their ears. If you haven't yet listened to episode 39, make sure to listen after this one to learn all about God's design of echolocation. However, God did design some animals with special ways to see with their eyes in the dark. Some animals have a special reflective layer in their eye called Tapetum Lucidum. When any light comes into the eye, it reflects off this layer, and the light kind of bounces back and travels along that same path that it took into the eye. This means that the light passes through the eye twice, So the tapetum lucidum creates a bounce back of light, kind of like a mirror. And it means that the eye has a second chance to use the light. I know that's a little bit hard to understand, but you can actually see it in some animals' eyes. Have you ever noticed that some animals, their eyes shine in the night? This is true of wolves and also of mountain lions. In fact, when my family saw that mountain lion last year, my husband saw the glowing, shining eyes of the lion when he first pointed his flashlight toward it. Many animals have this tapetum lucidum layer in their eyes, and it is one thing that nocturnal and crepuscular animals use to see well in the dark. Another way that God designed some animals with night vision is by giving them a whole lot of rods in their eyes. Now, I don't mean like actual wooden rods. That would not help at all. Rods are a special kind of cell in the eye. Do you remember what cells are from past episodes? Cells are like the tiny building blocks in our bodies. They are the building blocks that all living things are made out of. Rods are a type of cell that are a photoreceptor. Photoreceptor, that's a big word, right? Photoreceptor, they are special cells that sense light. The photoreceptors take in light and then they send messages to our brains to tell our brains what we are seeing. We as humans also have rods in our eyes. So these rods, these special photoreceptor cells, they help detect brightness. And this helps animals to see things when there's not much light available. Many animals that are active at night, they have a whole lot more rods in their eyes than other animals and than we do. And remember, those rods help bring in light. So this is another way that God designed creatures with night vision. Just like God designed some animals to see clearly in the dark, God also helps us see in the dark. Now, we don't have those tapetum lucidum reflective layers in our eyes, and we don't have as many rods in our eyes than nocturnal animals might. And I'm not exactly talking about physical darkness, like a forest at night or a very dark room. What I mean is this. Sometimes life can feel dark. Maybe you're going through a hard thing at school or with a friendship, or maybe you've lost a pet or a loved one. Maybe you're facing a hard decision, like you're in the dark and you're not sure what direction to go. When things in life feel dark, God can help us see His light. Just like those photoreceptors, the rods in the eyes that take in lots of light, God helps us take in the bright light of His love and truth. You see, God actually is light. 1 John 1:5 tells us, God is light, and there is no darkness in Him at all. Listener, no matter how dark things may feel at times, we can always see God's light. John 1:5 says, the light, that is Jesus. Jesus is the light. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overpowered it. God is light, and His word, the Bible, acts like a light for us, helping guide us through dark times. Psalm 119:105 says, your word is like a lamp for my feet and a light for my path. Listener, we all face hard times in life. Those times can feel really dark, like we're stumbling around and we don't know where we're going, and it can be a bit scary at times. But never forget that we can see God's light through the darkness. His light breaks through darkness. As we spend time in the Bible and in prayer and we keep learning about God, it's almost like God gives us more photoreceptors, those rods, but not in our eyes, but in our hearts. We can see more of His light as we get to know Him better. Do you remember our trivia question? What does diurnal mean? So we learned that nocturnal is a creature that is mostly active at night, and crepuscular is a creature that is mostly active at dawn and dusk. And diurnal is a creature, do you have a guess? Diurnal is a creature that is mostly active during the day. Now it's your turn to explore. Go see if you can spot an animal's reflective eyes. Both cats and dogs have a tapetum lucidum, that reflective layer in their eyes. This creates eye shine. So maybe at night, shine a light toward an animal. Of course, don't shine a bright light for long, like directly in their eyes. You don't want to bother them. But shine it toward them and see if you can see that reflective shine from the tapetum lucidum. You might also see this when driving around at night, like from a deer or a raccoon. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Nat Theo. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to share the link with a friend and subscribe, rate, and review Nat Theo wherever you listen. As always, listeners, until next time, keep exploring God's wild and wonderful world.